Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that makes most of us cringe: mistakes. Especially when it comes to math. That sinking feeling when you get a problem wrong, the red marks on your test paper. We've all been there. But what if I told you that mistakes aren't just normal, they're essential? What if I told you that every mistake you make is actually a secret weapon for getting better at math? Think about it. When you get a problem right, what do you usually do? You feel good for a second, and then you move on. You don't spend a lot of time analyzing why you were right. But when you get something wrong, it's a completely different story. A mistake is like a bright, flashing signpost. It points directly at a gap in your understanding. It's a specific, targeted piece of feedback telling you, hey, over here, this is what you don't know yet. Instead of seeing a wrong answer as a failure, see it as a clue. It's a puzzle piece that shows you exactly where you need to focus your energy. Maybe you misunderstood a formula, or perhaps you made a small calculation error. Whatever it is, the mistake illuminates the path forward. It's not a wall, it's a doorway to deeper learning. Without mistakes, we'd just be skimming the surface, never truly knowing what we don't know. So, the first big idea is to reframe how we see errors. They aren't judgments on our intelligence. They are simply data points. And the more data we have, the smarter we can get. Now, just making mistakes isn't enough. The real magic happens in the next step. Reviewing them. This is where so many of us drop the ball. It's tempting to just glance at the correct answer, say, oh, right, and move on. But that's like finding a treasure map and then throwing it away. You've identified the problem, but you haven't learned how to solve it for next time. To truly learn, you need to become a detective. Take that problem you got wrong and put it under a microscope. Ask yourself a series of questions. First, where exactly did I go wrong? Pinpoint the specific step. Was it in the setup? Was it a calculation error? Did I apply the wrong theorem? Be precisi. Once you find the error, ask the next crucial question. Why did I make this mistake? This is the deep dive. Were you rushing? Were you tired? Did you fundamentally misunderstand the concept? Maybe you memorized the rule but didn't grasp the logic behind it. For example, if you keep messing up negative signs in algebra, maybe the why is that you never truly understood how they interact during multiplication and division. Answering this why is what stops you from making the same mistake over and over again. It's the difference between temporarily fixing a problem and permanently upgrading your knowledge. You're not just correcting an answer. You're correcting your thinking process. This review process transforms a moment of failure into a powerful learning experience, hardwiring the correct method into your brain. I want to share a story about a student I once knew. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah was smart, but she was terrified of calculus. The concepts felt abstract, and every time she got a problem wrong on her homework, her confidence took a hit. She started to believe she just wasn't a math person. Her tests were a sea of red ink. One day, after a particularly tough exam, we sat down together. Instead of just looking at her score, we looked at her mistakes. We created what she called a mistake log. For every problem she got wrong, she wrote down 3 things: the original problem, the mistakes she made, and most importantly, a sentence explaining why she made it and what the correct logic was. At first, it was slow. She'd write things like, I forgot the chain rule because I was rushing to finish. I mixed up the formulas for volume and surface area because they look similar. But then something amazing started to happen. Patterns began to emerge. She noticed she consistently made errors when dealing with fractional expressions. She realized she often forgot to check her answers on integration problems. Her mistake log wasn't a wall of shame. It became her personalized study guide. Before her next test, she didn't just redo random problems. She reviewed her log and specifically practiced the types of problems that had tripped her up before. The result? Her grade on the next exam jumped by 20 points. It wasn't because she suddenly became a genius overnight. It was because she had systematically turned her weaknesses into strengths. She learned to embrace her mistakes as her most valuable teachers. Her confidence soared, not because she stopped making mistakes, but because she knew how to learn from them. Sarah didn't just pass calculus. She developed a resilient, growth-oriented mindset that would help her in all her future studies. This brings me to my next point. Every mistake is a step toward mastery. Think of learning math like climbing a mountain. You're not going to sprint to the top in a straight line. The path is winding. Sometimes you'll slip, sometimes you'll take a wrong turn and have to backtrack. Each slip, each wrong turn isn't a failure. It's part of the climb. Each error you correct is one less error you can make in the future. You're building a stronger foundation with every fix. When you first learn to factor polynomials, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. But each time you catch and correct a sign error or a wrong combination of factors, you're one step closer to doing it automatically and accurately. Mastery isn't about being perfect from the start. It's about persistence. It's about the cumulative effect of learning from thousands of small errors over time. The expert you admire in any field, whether it's a mathematician, a musician, or an athlete, has made more mistakes than the beginner has even attempted. They didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by failing forward. They fell, they learned, they got up, and they kept going. There's also a powerful psychological benefit to embracing mistakes. It builds resilience and confidence. When you're afraid of being wrong, you become timid. You hesitate to try new problems. You might even avoid raising your hand in class for fear of looking silly. This fear paralyzes you. It shrinks your world and limits your potential for growth. But when you accept that mistakes are part of the process, that fear starts to lose its power. You start to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. Getting a problem wrong is no longer a personal failing. It's just information. This shift in perspective is liberating. With every mistake you overcome, you prove to yourself that you can handle challenges. You're teaching your brain that you are capable of figuring things out, even when they're hard. This builds a deep, authentic confidence, not the fragile confidence of someone who has never been challenged, but the robust confidence of someone who has struggled and succeeded. You start to develop what psychologists call a growth mindset, the belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This is the opposite of a fixed mindset, which is the belief that your intelligence is static. People with a growth mindset are more likely to persevere through setbacks because they see effort as the path to mastery. They see mistakes not as a sign of incompetence, but as a sign that they are learning and stretching their abilities. And let's be clear, this isn't some new age idea. The greatest minds in the history of mathematics were champions of this process. Think about the giants of math and science. They didn't just sit down and write out perfect theories in one go. Their notebooks were filled with dead ends, incorrect assumptions, and flawed calculations. Take Andrew Wiles, the mathematician who famously proved Fermat's last theorem, a problem that had stumped mathematicians for over 350 years. He worked on it in secret for 7 years. After he announced his proof, a flaw was discovered. Can you imagine the pressure? The public scrutiny. For over a year, he and a former student worked intensely to fix the error. He didn't give up. He didn't hide. He went back to his mistakes, analyzed them, and ultimately found a way to correct them. His final successful proof was built upon the foundation of that initial failure. Another great example is the story of Johannes Kepler, the astronomer who discovered the laws of planetary motion. His initial belief, based on centuries of tradition, was that planets moved in perfect circles. He spent years trying to fit the observational data from Mars into a circular orbit. It just wouldn't work. His calculations were off, but only by a tiny amount. Many people would have fudged the data or given up. But Kepler trusted the data more than his own preconceptions. He embraced the error. That mistake in his model forced him to abandon the idea of perfect circles and test a new shape, the ellipse, and it worked perfectly. His willingness to accept that his initial assumption was wrong led to one of the most important breakthroughs in the history of science. These brilliant minds didn't see mistakes as a sign to quit. They saw them as a signal to think differently, to try a new approach, to dig deeper. They understood that progress is not a straight line. It is a messy, iterative process of trial, error, and correction. They learned by failing forward. So, how can you start putting this into practice today? First, the next time you get a math problem wrong, don't say, "I'm so bad at this." Instead, say, "Okay, interesting. What can I learn from this?" Treat it like a puzzle, not a judgment. Second, start that mistake log. Just like Sarah did, it can be a physical notebook or a digital document. Be diligent about recording your errors and, more importantly, understanding the why behind them. this will become your most powerful study tool. Third, when you're working on a set of problems, try to solve them first without looking at the answers. Struggle with them a bit. The struggle itself is a valuable part of the learning process. Only after you've given it your best shot, check your work. Then spend as much time analyzing your mistakes as you did trying to solve the problems in the first place. And finally, be patient with yourself. Building this new habit and mindset takes time. You've probably spent years being afraid of mistakes, so you can't expect to unlearn that fear overnight. You're building resilience, deepening your understanding, and moving one step closer to becoming the confident, capable math student you want to be. Remember, the goal isn't to never make mistakes. The goal is to not make the same mistake twice. Embrace your errors. They're not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you are trying, that you are learning, and that you are growing. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope this changes the way you look at that next red mark on your paper. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more content to help you on your learning journey. Let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was, or share a story about how a mistake helped you learn. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.